most of my life, I've had things like New Year's resolutions and setting goals thrown on me so much, they didn't feel real. They just felt like concepts rather than something people actually did. And in the past, whenever I would try to write some sort of list of goals, I'd write it down in 10 minutes and then I'd never look at it again. So over the past 3 or 4 years, I've genuinely wanted to change. Like, I do like who I am, but I want to make sure that I'm growing. Like, I look at myself in the mirror and I see myself, but I also see that I am a work in progress, and I want to make sure that I'm continuing to progress myself. So I've been trying to reinvent those concepts. I've been trying to turn self-growth into an actual, almost ritual. Try to make concrete steps that make sense in my head that actually make me improve as a person. I wanted to figure out for sure how I can sit down and turn the person I am into the person that I want to become, to turn the life that I'm living into the life I have always wanted to live. And when I first started to recreate myself, it didn't feel like a manifestation. More than anything, it felt like an exercise of imagination, just like me and my mom sitting on the living room floor, lighting incense and writing down everything that we've ever wanted. And I really didn't know if any of it was real or not, and I was so skeptical. So I just wrote down all of these random, impossible things that, as much as I wanted them, I was convinced that I could never get in my life, ever. I threw reality out the window, and now I'm so thankful of that, because I don't know how, but every single thing I wrote down that first night has come to fruition. And now I can look at those graphics that fly through Pinterest and Instagram stories that are like, you once dreamed of being where you are now, and I can read them and I can know that they're true. So this is how I did it. I've developed a few tricks for reinventing myself, for giving my life a metaphorical facelift whenever I need to. This is something that I'll do like on New Year's, on my birthday, or just if I feel like I'm stuck in a rut in life, I'll do this. And for some of the exercises that I was doing, the first time I did them, I felt like they were so silly, but if something works as well as these have worked for me, it can be the silliest thing in the world and I'll still do it. So for the purposes of the video, I've broken down my routine into 2 parts, the mind and the spirit. The mind is sitting down with a paper or pen or your computer and writing down a physical framework of what you want your life to be. The second part, the spirit, is much more ritualistic. It's for when the spiritual part of you wants to realign with who you are and your ambition to make a life that you are actually going to love. It creates a rebirth that feels powerful and sacred. So you can do one, you can do the other, or you can do both. The most important part is making this process feel authentic to you. So let's get started. Every future you can ever create for yourself starts within your own mind. And we as humans are so lucky we can have all of these imaginative thoughts and real feelings and emotions, but these thoughts are useless if we can't sort through them. Because you can't follow a dream if it's so buried under worries and fears that have grown so wild you can't even see the dream in the first place. So here is exactly what you're gonna do. And I know that what I'm gonna say has been suggested to you at least 1,000,000 times before, but when I say this, it's different. This is not a suggestion, this is begging, if I'm honest. This is a plea from the person you could be to the person you are right now. You need to journal about this. And the way that you're gonna journal about this, don't think of it as like a normal journal entry, think of it as a download. Literally, you are just going to dump as many thoughts and feelings as you can onto the page or screen, because if you're holding so many thoughts in your head, you won't have the mental capacity to take action on the ones that are actually going to further you as a person. So this is how you do it. You grab your journal, pen and paper, or you can even do this on your computer. Typing is a lot faster than writing, so I found that it almost feels a little bit more cathartic. And while the journaling prompt itself is simple, actually sitting down and journaling for a long period of time is gonna be really tough if you aren't used to doing this. And that tough feeling is just your brain breaking a habit or a rhythm that it's used to and trying to do something new. So it's clunky. It's supposed to be hard, but the hard part is gonna fade away within like maybe 10, 15 minutes. And once you reach a flow state, it's gonna be enjoyable. Because I know myself, whenever I start journaling, I want to check out within the first like 10 minutes. So the way that I keep track of myself and stay on task is through creative use of timers. So instead of just using like the normal timer on your phone, I want you to go on YouTube, and they make writing timers. I'll just link them below so you can see them, and it'll help time you with like 25-minute segments where you're writing. Or if you do want to use your phone, don't use the timer, use the stopwatch. So set a goal for yourself in your head. You want to be journaling for 30 minutes, start the stopwatch, and then flip your phone screen down. Every time you pick up your phone to check how much time has elapsed, if it hasn't been 30 minutes yet, you add a minute. But then if you're like really in the zone and you're writing and it's been 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, you're not going to be distracted by the sound of the timer, if that makes sense. It's so simple, but I swear it helps so much. So your prompt is this: what are you happy about in your life? What are you unhappy about in your life? And what do you want your new life to be? And you have to journal on these for at least 30 minutes. And I beg you, no breaks within the first 20 minutes. Because if you take a break, you're not going to get back into it. And even if you like genuinely have no idea what to write, don't just stare at the paper. Just keep writing. Just write a stream of consciousness, just everything you can possibly think within that time. Just put it on paper. Because honestly, you might discover some really cool things about yourself that way, and it'll keep you in the rhythm and in the headspace so that when the thoughts do appear about your life and about remanifesting yourself, you'll already be in the flow, so they'll just show up on the page and you won't have to think about it. And most importantly, do not police your thoughts. If you think of something, but you think that it's not good enough to write down or just not quite the vibe or related, write it down anyway. This is your journaling brain dump. Truly write down every single thing that comes through your head. And you can keep going with this exercise as long as you want. It doesn't just have to be 30 minutes. You can do this as many times as you want, because sometimes you have a lot of thoughts and one journaling session isn't enough time to really get everything out. I do this all of the time, and I honestly can say this one journaling habit has brought so many dreams to life. For example, I just went on my first solo trip, right? I've always wanted to travel, but I've been too scared, and I can't be mad at myself for being scared. That's just my brain trying to keep me safe. It's something that I've never done before. It's a huge step. But I don't know, one night I had a lot of feelings about the subject and I really wanted to travel, but I was so nervous, so I just journaled about it. I wrote down everything. And by the end of it, I booked the flights. I had been so scared for so many months, for honestly years, to just take that step and travel across the world by myself, but I did it. And doing it was still scary, but oh my God, it was the best decision I could have made. I had the time of my life, and I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't journaled about it. Once you feel journaled out and you have an idea of what you want to do, where you want your life to go, I have a second activity. This one is a little bit less cathartic, a little bit more funsies, a little bit more artistic. It's very dear to me. I do this every single year. So we've all made a list of goals before, but I started thinking of my list of goals as a bucket list. Calling it a bucket list makes it so much less stringent and kind of lower commitment, because when I would make a list of goals, I felt like everything that I would put on there is something that I would like commit to achieving. And if I looked at a list of goals and I had only completed half, it would kind of feel like a failure. So I would only put goals on there that I knew that I could achieve, and I would put less goals on there to make sure that I could complete the whole thing. But in doing that, I was thinking so much smaller and limiting myself. Whereas if I make a bucket list, I'm thinking bigger. It's just kind of like I'm throwing spaghetti at the walls, throwing ideas out left and right just to see what sticks. And I'm not supposed to complete it all. If I do, awesome, crazy. But the quote that I keep in mind while doing my bucket list is, shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars, which I know is not astronomically accurate, but it's motivating, so literally who cares? But you get the idea. Anyway, I like doing this on paper. I have been using this old bound bullet journal from Michael's that I got a couple years ago. And when I first started using this journal, I was using it as like something to write down my daily thoughts or like a weekly roundup, but do it in more of an artistic style. But now this specific book has turned into something that I open up every year, right around this time. And I don't know, that kind of feels special to me. Like my little New Year's journal. Also birthday journal. I don't know, my little journal for every occasion when I want to completely reinvent myself. But I really think your yearly bucket list is something that you need to work hard on. You need to use your nicest pens, cut out pictures from magazines, or print things out. The harder that you work on this, the more committed to it you'll feel. The more likely you are to really stick to it, and also the more you're gonna wanna look at it. And just kind of the concept of keeping a bucket list feels very broad, so I like to kind of break it down and do it in a very specific way. My bullet points fall loosely into two categories: concepts and definitives. Concepts are my nice to haves. There's things that I want to do, there are things that sound so cool, but like, I don't know, they're nice to haves, not need to haves. Whereas the definitives are things that I think about all the time. These are goals or bucket list items, bullet points, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. These are things that I know for a fact I want to achieve. I will be genuinely disappointed if these things don't happen. And you can separate these into two columns if you want, but I like to keep them all together. And I do this because the whole point of doing these exercises is to change who you are and evolve. And if in 6 months' time, your priorities completely change, some of your definitives might turn into just concepts. Some of your concepts might become really, really important to you and you want to seek out those more. So keeping them all together in one list helps give your future self a little bit of freedom. And it gives you the opportunity to navigate the list as the world changes. And probably the most important part of the bucket list, make sure that every item isn't like a broad statement. It's like an actual, specific, achievable thing. Let me give you an example. One of my big goals this year is to take my fitness more seriously and get into better shape. But I'm not just gonna write down get into better shape because that's so broad. What does that mean? How do I know for sure if I have accomplished that? So instead, you're gonna break it down and turn every step to achieving this into a goal itself. I like to call these gateway goals. I sound like one of those productivity authors, but calling it a gateway goal, but that's what I call it in my head. So I'll start out with the first step of achieving this goal. I'm writing down something that I know I will achieve, something easy. So first I'll get a gym membership, right? And then I'll set the next like 2 to 5 goals going in the positive direction. So maybe my next one is run 1 mile. Then run 2 miles, then lift 50 pounds, then run a 5K. Then I like to do either 1 or 2 like real stretch goals. Things that I would either have to like work my ass off to accomplish, or sometimes I like to put a couple things in there that I know I'm not gonna achieve. So I put run a half marathon and then run a full marathon. And I'm gonna be so for real with you. The chances of me running a full marathon within 1 calendar year, impossible. Astronomically impossible. Like, as much as I love being active, I'm coming off of the tail end of knee surgery recovery. I haven't ran in like a year. I am really out of shape right now. But the whole point of this list is to push yourself and write down things that you think are impossible. Because I wrote down things last year that I thought for sure were impossible, just for the heck of it, and I ended up achieving it. So like, why not write it down? Take the chance. Who cares? Plus, even if you don't end up achieving this thing on this bucket list, you can just steal that list item and put it onto next year's. I do that all the time. I have a couple things on my bucket list that I have basically just been like copying and pasting year after year that I'm like, this will be so cool when I finally do it, but I just haven't done it yet. But I will do it. I am actively working towards it. Maybe that's not the best example, but at least it's keeping it real. It's keeping it real. But anyway, break down your broad objectives into smaller, accomplishable tasks, and feel free to pause for inspo. Here are some of mine. Pretty much it for the bucket list. You're gonna write down your dreams, check boxes next to them, and every time you achieve one, check it off. And I know that some people like to display these. You can hang it on your wall, you can make it your desktop or phone wallpaper, but mine feels a little bit personal, so I like to keep it somewhere safe in a journal and then put it somewhere special. And then whenever I take that journal out to check off my item, it just, I don't know, it feels really, I hate to say special again because I've just said it for so many times, but it feels like an occasion. It makes me happy. So now that your mind is aligned, let's work on your spirit. This is a ritual I started doing around 5 years ago. I was in college, I was broke, I was senior year of a major that I had recently decided or realized that I didn't want a career in. So basically I had like no direction. I was completely lost. But I sat down with my mom, lit some incense, and we just wrote down what we wanted our lives to be. And I wrote down, I was making things up. I was everything I wrote down was fiction, but somehow everything I wrote down came true. Just manifesting my life like this has opened up so many doors and so many Pandora's boxes of opportunities. I cannot even put into words how grateful I am that I did this. Something that's big as a part of just like my own personal beliefs is I don't think that success is a limited resource. I think that there is enough success and joy and happiness in the world to go around to everybody, and the world would be such a better place if more people were able to achieve their dreams and do better. So I don't know, it's really important to me that I'm able to share this and make sure that as many people have the tools to achieve what they want as they can. But there is a reason that I didn't put this at the start of the video. As much as you manifest and as you are working to speak and write your new life into existence, nothing will happen if you don't do the work. If you do not back up your intentions with actions, absolutely nothing will happen. The way that I think of this is like, part one is you setting up the framework for you to take action. And part two, the spirit, is inviting the universe into your framework to step up and help you. And it doesn't have to be the universe. It can be whatever higher power you believe in, whatever you feel most connected to. But just for the sake of the video, to keep it applicable to as many people as possible, I'm just gonna say the universe because that's what I think of. You will need a small piece of paper, a pen or a pencil, incense, and either tape or wax. First, light your incense and think of the journaling exercise you did. Think about what you want in your absolute dream life and don't fall for the trap that is being realistic because that's only going to hold you back. On that small piece of paper, you are going to write about that dream life in the present tense, as if you already have it. And you're going to write about it in a detailed but concise way. Writing these specific details is so important because that's what's gonna mean the most when this manifestation comes true. The first time I did this, I did it with the goal of success and financial freedom. So I wrote down something along the lines of, I am successful. I have a full-time job in field doing job title. I make X amount per year and can comfortably afford my own rent. After you write your manifestation, you're gonna wanna fold it 3 times toward you or roll it up like a little scroll. Hold it in your hands and pass it through the smoke of the incense and manifest. Charge up that little paper with as much faith as you possibly can. While you're holding it, close your eyes and visualize your life as if all of those statements you wrote down are true. Make yourself really, really believe it. Think about how it would feel if all of those things were true. And if you don't quite believe it yet, and you just wrote down some fake things, hope. Imbue that piece of paper with as much hope as you possibly can, and keep passing it through the smoke. And once you feel like the time is right, and you're done, and you've put as much in there as you possibly can, take a little piece of tape or wax and seal it. Once it's sealed, tuck it away somewhere safe. This can be a bookshelf you never touch, or just somewhere safe in your home. You can bury it, put it in your wallet, but don't open it until it's come true. Or better yet, write it down, do your ritual, hide it away for like 3 years, and forget about it. Then one day, when you find it, and it's already come true, it'll mean that much more. Because that's what I did. This is the second little manifestation thing that I did. And this was before any of the stuff in the first one had come true. So I just I don't know, I felt the need to do it twice. I wanted to give it that extra oomph. And I wrote down me on it because it was like my dream life, and I hadn't thought about this in years, but I only found this recently, just like tucked into the card holder in my wallet. And I don't know, I was taking out like my credit card to pay for something, and I saw it, and it was just such a full circle moment. And like every time I hold it, it just feels so special. So this is very dear to me, and I still keep it in my wallet because every time I look at it, it reminds me of how far I've come. And it reminds me of everything that I've achieved and how everything that I have worked so hard for all started out as a dream. And that's all I have for you today. I hope some of this resonated and some ideas really made you feel something. And I hope that you try some of these. And if you do, you should let everyone know in the comments to inspire other people and so that I know you tried them, and that would be so cool. But even if you never do a single one of these in your entire life, I hope that something I said today motivated you. Bye.